Have you ever caught yourself doing something small that might be pushing others away? As we age, we gain wisdom, experience, and often a deeper sense of what really matters. But some habits we've picked up over time can quietly erode our relationships, dignity, and happiness. These are things no one tells us because they don't want to offend us. But that silence means these habits linger for years, even decades. This video is about shining a kind, honest light on those behaviors, not to shame you, but to empower you. We're diving into 7 habits that most seniors carry, without even realizing it. They're not loud or cruel. In fact, many come from good intentions. But left unchecked, they can become barriers to connection and growth. If you've ever wondered why certain conversations don't go the way you'd hoped, or why some people seem to pull away, these habits might be part of the reason. And recognizing them is the first step to changing that. Stay with us until the end, because you'll not only see how to spot these behaviors, you'll also learn how to replace them with simple shifts that help you connect more, feel lighter, and carry yourself with the grace and confidence you've earned. You might even recognize a few in yourself. That's okay. We're here to grow, not to judge. Let's get started. Number 1, the habit of constantly comparing everything to the past. There's a certain comfort in the past. The music sounded better. Prices made sense. And when you've lived through the richness of those decades, it's only natural to look back with fondness. But here's where it turns into a problem. When every present moment is compared to how it used to be, the people around you stop feeling heard, and you start sounding stuck. It's a habit that sneaks in slowly. You hear someone talking about a new way of doing something, and before you even realize it, you're saying, well, back in my day, or that would have never worked in the 60s. You might mean it as a point of reflection or wisdom, but it often lands as dismissal. It sends the message that the present is somehow always falling short. And when that becomes the tone of most conversations, people start tuning out. Younger folks especially may feel like they're being judged for simply living in a different time. They may stop bringing up what they're excited about because they don't want to hear how it doesn't measure up. And your peers, even those who share your memories, may quietly tire of hearing the same refrains repeated over and over. Instead of making space for what's still ahead, romanticizing the past can bring warmth. But when it's used as a constant benchmark, it becomes a wall between you and the people in front of you. Take George, a 79-year-old former school principal. His grandson came to visit and started showing him a new video editing app he was proud of. George's first instinct was to say, "When I was your age, we didn't waste time on things like that." But something stopped him. Instead, he said, "Show me how it works." An hour later, they were laughing and editing an old family video together, bridging 2 eras through curiosity instead of comparison. The past has shaped you, but it shouldn't shape how you treat the present. There's still life happening right now. There are still stories being written, ideas being born, moments worth embracing. When you meet people where they are, instead of dragging every conversation back to where you were, you keep the connection alive and growing. You can still honor your memories without using them to dismiss someone else's reality. The phrase that's interesting, "Tell me more," goes much further than "we had it better." And truthfully, every generation has its struggles and its strengths, yours included. Theirs too. So let your nostalgia be a bridge, not a barrier. Let it inspire stories, not shut down connection. When you do, people feel invited into your experience, instead of feeling compared against it. Number 2, the habit of constantly talking about health issues. It starts with a small comment. "You're back acting up again." A new medication, a doctor's visit, perfectly natural things to mention, especially when you're sharing updates with someone close. But over time, without even realizing it, some people fall into a pattern where nearly every conversation revolves around one thing. What's hurting, what's broken, what's wrong? Here's the problem. When you're constantly talking about your health, especially in casual conversations, it can unintentionally make people feel uncomfortable, overwhelmed, or even helpless. They may care deeply, but they don't always know how to respond. And when they feel they can't help, they may slowly begin to distance themselves, not out of cruelty, but out of emotional exhaustion. It's important to be honest about what you're going through, but it's also important to check in with yourself. Is this something I need to share, or just something I've gotten used to repeating? There's a difference between expressing pain and identifying with it. If your identity becomes too closely tied to your illnesses or symptoms, it can start to shape how others see you and how you see yourself. You are more than what hurts. You are more than a chart of symptoms. And the people who care about you want to see you, not just the list of what's wrong. Remember, connection comes from shared laughter, stories, and curiosity, not just updates on blood pressure or joint pain. Of course, your health matters. Of course, your challenges are real. But when those challenges dominate every interaction, the space for joy and lightness shrinks. Think of Alice, 80 years old and sharp as ever. She once joked, "My knees talk louder than I do these days." But she realized one afternoon, after yet another lunch, with her daughter ended on a down. Note that she hadn't asked a single question about her daughter's life. Everything had revolved around her arthritis and digestion. It wasn't intentional, but it was constant. She made a quiet change she still shared, but only after checking in with others first. Her relationships got warmer. She felt lighter too. Sharing your struggles isn't the issue. It's when that becomes the only lens you look through. You deserve to feel seen not just as someone managing pain, but as someone with wisdom, humor, ideas, and dreams still unfolding. So the next time you're in a conversation, take a moment. Ask about the other person. Share a memory. Offer a thought about the world beyond your own aches. Let your health be part of your story, not the whole book. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, the habit of saying I already know. There's a moment that happens in conversations, especially across generations, that shuts everything down before it even starts. Someone begins to share something, a story, a fact, a lesson, and before they can finish, the senior listening says, "Oh, I already know that." It seems innocent, maybe even true. You've lived a long life, gathered so much knowledge, and yes, much of what people say might feel familiar. But here's the hard truth. The phrase "I already know" is a quiet conversation killer. And it's a habit that pushes people away, especially younger ones who may already feel uncertain about connecting with someone older. When you say it, what they hear is, "There's no room for your voice here." It makes people feel like their thoughts, experiences, and stories aren't valuable. And over time, they stop trying. They stop sharing. They walk on eggshells or retreat altogether. Not because they don't love you, but because they feel dismissed, even if that wasn't your intent. It's easy to slip into this habit without meaning harm. You want to show you're sharp, that you're still mentally active, that you haven't lost your edge. But the truth is, the sharpest people are the ones who stay curious, who make space, not just statements. Think about conversation as a dance, not a lecture. Even if you've heard the song before, the person in front of you is offering a chance to hear it through their voice. And sometimes it's less about the information being shared and more about the connection being offered. Take Sam, a 76-year-old retired firefighter. His grandson once excitedly told him about a history lesson he'd just learned, something Sam knew well. Instead of brushing it off, Sam leaned in and said, "Tell me what you learned." That one sentence opened the door to a conversation that lasted an hour and deepened their bond in a way no correction ever could. You don't have to pretend you don't know something, but you can say, "That's interesting," or "What made you think about that?" Instead, it invites connection. It shows that what matters isn't just what you know, it's who you're listening to. After all, nobody ever felt loved by being told they were wrong to speak. They feel loved when they're heard, when their words land in a heart that's open, not just a mind that's full. Number 4, the habit of dismissing new ideas or technology. We've all heard the jokes. Older people can't use smartphones, don't like change, and think the world's moving too fast. But the truth is, those aren't facts, they're stereotypes. And the more we buy into them, the more we start to live by them. That's where the habit of dismissing new ideas or technology becomes a quiet trap. It usually begins subtly. A new phone feature, a grocery store self-checkout, an unfamiliar app someone mentions. The instinct kicks in, "I don't need that. That stuff's for kids. I've gotten along just fine without it." On the surface, it feels like confidence. But underneath, it's often a defense against feeling lost or left behind. There's no shame in not knowing how something works. But when we turn that discomfort into rejection, we do two things. We stop growing, and we cut ourselves off from the people around us, especially the younger ones who use those tools as part of daily life. Imagine being at a family dinner where everyone's laughing about something shared in a group chat, but you're not in it because group chats feel too complicated. Or a friend sends you a link to register for an event, but you dismiss it because I don't do things online. Each time you opt out, a small piece of connection is lost. It doesn't mean you have to love every new thing, but when you consistently meet newness with resistance instead of curiosity, people stop trying to include you. Not because they don't care, but because they feel like you've already decided to sit out. There's also something deeper at play when you stop learning. You stop reinforcing one of the most powerful parts of the brain, neuroplasticity. Studies show that older adults who stay open to learning new skills, even simple ones, tend to maintain sharper cognitive function, better moods, and more fulfilling social lives. Look at Linda, a 72-year-old who had never touched a tablet before her granddaughter gave her one. At first, she scoffed. What would I do with this? But she gave it a try. Now she reads the paper on it every morning, video chats with friends across the country, and even watches old films with subtitles. I didn't think I needed it, she said, but I didn't realize how much more connected I could feel. The key isn't becoming a tech expert. It's about staying open, about saying, show me, instead of I'm too old for that. It's about seeing every new thing not as a threat to your way of life, but as a possible enhancement to it. This habit of shutting down new ideas isn't just about gadgets. It's about mindset. It's about the willingness to stay flexible, to keep expanding your world instead of shrinking it. Because the truth is, the older we get, the more deliberate we must be about growth. It doesn't happen by accident anymore. It happens by choice. And choosing curiosity over judgment is one of the clearest signs of emotional maturity. It tells the people around you, especially the younger ones, that you're not just wise, you're also awake. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, the habit of oversharing. Personal details with strangers. There's a fine line between being open and being overwhelming. And as we age, that line can quietly start to blur. You meet someone in line at the pharmacy or sit next to someone new at a church gathering. And before you know it, you've shared your entire medical history, 3 family conflicts, and the full account of your neighbor's recent divorce, all in the span of a few minutes. Now, there's nothing wrong with being friendly. Many seniors grew up in a time when talking to strangers was part of everyday life. It was a way to connect, to build community. But what often goes unnoticed is that times and social norms have changed. And what used to feel like neighborly conversation can now come across as too much, too soon. Oversharing tends to happen when we're craving connection, when the loneliness creeps in, or when we haven't had a good, meaningful chat in a while. Sometimes we let it all pour out the moment someone's willing to listen. But here's the hard truth: that kind of emotional dumping often leaves others feeling caught off guard or even uncomfortable, especially if the relationship isn't deep enough yet to carry that kind of weight. It's not that your stories don't matter, they do. It's how and when you share them that makes the difference. Take Tom, a 74-year-old who struck up a conversation with a younger man at the gym. Within 10 minutes, Tom had shared details about a recent surgery, how he no longer speaks to one of his sons, and how his last 3 birthdays had been lonely. The young man listened politely, but he never returned to that conversation. Tom wasn't trying to push anyone away. In fact, he was trying to draw someone in. But the imbalance was too heavy, too fast. Healthy connection needs time. It needs balance. And one of the greatest relational skills you can practice at any age is learning when to hold back just a little, not to be secretive, but to be respectful of the space and trust that relationships need in order to grow. Instead of diving straight into your deepest challenges or private life, start small. Ask a question. Share something light. Let the other person open up too. That's how you build a rhythm of exchange instead of a monologue. This doesn't mean you have to become guarded or fake. Quite the opposite. When you learn to share with thoughtfulness and intention, your stories land more meaningfully. People want to listen, not because they feel they have to, but because they're genuinely drawn in. Oversharing isn't just about what you say, it's about timing, context, and care. When you respect those things, you show emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and social grace. And in return, you'll find that more people are willing to open up to you as well. Number 6, the habit of dominating conversations with long stories. Storytelling is one of the great gifts that come with age. You've lived through moments others have only read about. You've seen the world change with your own eyes. And sharing those memories can be a powerful way to teach, inspire, or simply connect. But when storytelling turns into conversation domination, it becomes something else entirely, a habit that makes others feel small, silenced, or simply tired. It's easy to miss when this habit kicks in. You're in the middle of a chat, and something someone says reminds you of a memory. You start talking, then another story comes to mind, and another. Before you know it, 15 minutes have passed and no one else has said a word. The smiles are polite, the nods automatic, but the energy in the room has quietly shifted. The truth is, long, uninterrupted stories, especially when repeated often, can wear people out. It's not because your experiences aren't interesting, it's because people connect through exchange, not lectures. When one person dominates the airspace, even with the best of intentions, others start to feel like spectators rather than participants. You may not even realize it's happening. After all, you're just sharing what comes naturally. But if people stop making eye contact, glance at their phones, or try to change the subject, they're not being rude. They're trying to re-enter the conversation. This is especially true in mixed age groups. Younger people often hesitate to interrupt or redirect an older adult. Out of respect, they stay quiet, but inwardly they check out. Over time, this leads to fewer invitations, fewer calls, fewer visits. Not because they don't love you, but because they feel they can't get a word in edgewise. Let's take Barbara, 78 years old, who loved to tell stories from her time as a nurse. At first, her friends and family loved hearing them. But eventually, they began to dread gatherings where Barbara would hold court for an hour without pause. One day, her daughter gently said, "Mom, I love your stories, but I miss talking with you, not just listening to you." That moment shifted something. Barbara didn't stop telling stories. She just started asking more questions too. The conversations that followed were richer, more mutual, more alive. The key isn't to stop sharing. It's to learn to listen between the lines. Watch for body language. Notice when someone else wants to jump in. And when you do tell a story, keep it concise. Leave space for others to respond, to add their own thoughts, to feel included. There's wisdom in knowing when to speak, but there's power in knowing when to pause. Conversation is like music. It's not just the notes, but the spaces between them that make it beautiful. And when you create space, others will step in. Not out of obligation, but because they finally feel invited. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 7, the habit of judging others too quickly based on appearance or choices. It's a reflex so subtle, most people don't even notice they're doing it. Someone walks by with brightly colored hair. You see a young man with tattoos down his arms. A woman in her 50s mentions she's just starting to date again. And before you even mean to, a thought forms, a judgment, a label, a silent opinion. It slips out in a glance, a comment, or a sigh. And just like that, a wall goes up. This habit, judging others too quickly based on how they look, live, or think, is one of the most isolating patterns we carry with us as we age. It often begins from a place of pride and tradition, of holding on to values and standards we grew up with. But if we're not careful, it hardens into criticism. And over time, it pushes people away, not because they don't care about us, but because they feel unseen or unaccepted. It's not just about fashion or lifestyle or political opinions. It's about the message we send when we assume that being older gives us the right to decide who's right, who's wrong, and who belongs. The hard part? Many of the people we judge are the same people we long to connect with. Our children, our neighbors, our grandkids. But connection can't grow where judgment sits. People can sense when they're being silently measured. And most of the time, they'll choose to withdraw instead of defend. Take Richard, an 81-year-old widower who felt like his granddaughter was drifting away. She rarely visited, barely called, and seemed guarded when they did talk. One afternoon, she finally told him, "Grandpa, every time I come over, you make a comment about my clothes or how I live. I don't feel safe being myself around you." That moment changed Richard. He didn't argue. He listened. And for the first time in years, their next visit was full of laughter instead of tension. When we replace judgment with curiosity, everything shifts. Instead of thinking, "Why would they do that?" try asking, "What's their story?" Instead of deciding they're wrong, ask what they might be teaching you. Because every person you meet has walked a road you haven't. And wisdom doesn't always wear a suit or live like you did. You don't have to agree with every choice to show kindness. You don't have to understand every lifestyle to offer warmth. And when you release the need to evaluate, you open the door to connection, genuine, surprising, often beautiful connection. Remember, being older doesn't make your voice less powerful, but it does mean your voice carries more weight. What you say and how you say it lingers. So let that weight be something that lifts others up, not something that shuts them down. Respect isn't a one-way street. It's something we offer, not just expect. And when we lead with openness, with grace, with the humility to see others without rushing to define them, we create space for relationships that feel safe, joyful, and real. Final thoughts. As we close out this video, take a quiet moment to reflect. Which of these habits did you recognize? Which one made you pause and think, I might be doing that more than I realize? This isn't about blame. It's not about shame either. It's about awareness, and the kind of self-awareness that only grows with time, reflection, and a little courage. These habits don't make you a bad person. In fact, most of them started from good intentions, a desire to connect, to be heard, to stay rooted in what you've known. But here's the beautiful part: awareness brings choice, and choice brings change. Whether it's softening your tone, pausing before you share, or asking one more question instead of giving one more opinion, you have the power to shape how others experience you. And that power is one of the most beautiful gifts of aging, because growth doesn't stop at 40 or 60 or even 80. Emotional maturity, relational intelligence, and grace are lifelong pursuits. And by noticing these quiet habits, by naming them, adjusting them, you not only improve your relationships, you reclaim your influence. You show others that being older doesn't mean being stuck. It means having the humility and strength to keep evolving. So as you go through your week, try this. Pick just one of the habits we talked about today and catch yourself in the moment. Don't scold yourself, just notice, breathe, and choose something different. That small act, done again and again, rewrites patterns. It creates space. And most of all, it tells the people in your life, I care enough about you and myself to grow. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.